Hello everyone, it's Mari. I'm back with another Honeybee Stamps card making video for you. Today I'm going to be using the gorgeous Scandinavian Christmas stamp and coordinating die sets. This is such a fun set. You can see that you get a hexagon and a circle stamp, a bunch of foliage, some little bottle trees, you get some little stamps that show like a little ribbon for your ornament, etc., and all of the coordinating dies. This is such a versatile set, and I think from the recent release, this might be the most versatile set of all. I really love it. I am going to take my white cardstock here and treat it with my anti-static powder tool because I am going to do some heat embossing. I'm going to stamp out a bunch of images with my Honeybee clear embossing ink, and what I'm going to do here is stamp out a whole bunch of different pieces from the set. I'm only going to use a few of them, but when I'm stamping a set like this, I always like to do a whole bunch and then just keep the other little bits with the stamp set for other projects. So here you can just see now I'm going to apply some gold embossing powder over top of this clear embossing ink. And once I have each one of the different images covered with that powder, I will take the paper to my heat tool and melt the powder so that I end up with these really gorgeous shiny gold different pieces for my project. So here you can see I'm taking my heat tool and melting each one of these different images. And then I will use the coordinating dies to cut these all apart, and I'll set those aside for later in the video here where you'll see me using them to do some embellishing. Now I'm going to use the two little circle dies that are part of the die set, and I'm going to use those to cut out a forest green circle. I'll cut that out and set that aside, and now I'm going to be using my Be Creative mat to do a little bit of stenciling. I'm using the Nordic Winter Stencil. This is actually a set of two stencils that are layering stencils. You do not have to use them together. You can use them separately as well. I'm using the stencil that has the most detail on it from the set, and I'm doing some stenciling over top of my white cardstock with some Stardust Butter Champagne stencil butter from the Crafters Workshop. You can just see here I'm just picking up the medium with my palette knife and then spreading it across the stencil nice and thinly, and then I'll just scrape off all of the extra and do the peel reveal here. And this is just a beautiful, stunning piece that I'm going to use for part of my project today. I'll set that aside and let it dry. Once it's all dry, it'll be ready to go. I've also put a piece of plastic over top of that paste so that it doesn't dry out. Now I'm also using one of the freebies from the freebie pack. If you spend $75 or more, you get this gorgeous freebie pack of papers that are 4x6 in size. I'm going to use this gorgeous one here with the black background and the foliage and berries. I've cut out the center with my Sweet Stacks rectangle here so that I can layer this piece as a frame over top of the paper that I used the paste on. So now I've cut down all of these pieces so that they fit nicely on my card front. This is an A2 size portrait card front. This is a card base, I should say. My card base is white cardstock. And what I'm going to do now is take a piece of acetate that I've sized down to fit over top of that opening in the frame here, and I'm just going to take some double-sided tape. I'm going to put that around the on the back side of the frame around the opening, and I will adhere the acetate over top of that so that what I'm creating here is a topper for my shaker element. So what I decided to do with all of these different pieces is make a shaker card. So here you can just see that I'm getting this double-sided tape down. What I really love about the double-sided tape is it's easy to use, it's not messy, and it will hold the acetate in place very well. So it is a really, really super strong adhesive. So you can just see I'm tearing that off around that window. I'll remove the backing, the paper backing, and now I'll just take my piece of acetate and put that over top of the adhesive. And when I flip that over, you can see that this just creates a really nice window for my shaker card. So now that that's all ready to go, I'm going to apply some foam tape. I'm just going to take my foam tape. I've got a long strip here that I'm going to double up so that there's enough room in my shaker. There's enough depth so that my little shaker elements my little sequin mix will shake around nicely. So I'm going to double up the foam. And now I'll just take my scissors and trim this in half. I don't need the full width of this tape, so just to conserve my foam tape, I'm only going to use half a strip. So I'm just trimming it in half. And then I'll take that foam tape and adhere it to the back of the frame that I'm going to be using for my shaker window. So I'm just taking that backer off, and then I'll just start to adhere this onto that back side of the frame. So over top of the acetates where I'm going to add this, just over on the edges of the frame. And you can just see here, I'm just using my scissors, obviously, to trim this down so that it's the right size. And this is going to be the perfect depth of foam adhesive to allow my shaker mix to shake around nicely on my card base. So here you can just see, I'm just going to add this last little bit of foam adhesive. I'm just taking the backer off just far enough so that I can save the rest of that foam tape. And I'll just go ahead and trim off the rest of that release paper and then put that into my stash where my foam tape is for another project. And now you can just see I have the perfect little well for my shaker mix. Now I'm going to take the card front with the paste on it, and I'm going to add my shaker mix to that area. And I just grabbed a few different shaker mixes from my stash, but I will say that Honeybee has the most amazing shaker mixes that you will find. And I will definitely link up to their shaker mixes in the description box below. And they did release a bunch of brand new shaker mixes with the Make It Merry collection. And they have such beautiful shaker mixes. They really are gorgeous. So I saw Jennifer McGuire doing this and I thought it was genius. Everything she does is genius, let's face it. So what I decided I wanted to do is do the same thing. What I'm doing is just adding a little bit of liquid adhesive, my Honeybee adhesive, to the inside of my card, just here and there in little dots and little spots. And then I'm adding some sequins to that little bit of glue. And so in that way, those sequins won't move in the shaker mix. They'll just be stationary and all of the other little bits will shake around them, so that at any point in time, you'll always have sequins in the window, in that shaker window. Now I've added a little bit of liquid adhesive over top of my foam adhesive just to ensure that I can wiggle this around a little bit in place when I get it down, and also to make sure that it sticks to that paste really well. Now this is back to the green frame that I die cut with those 2 circle dies. I'm going to add a little bit of foam adhesive to the back of this piece as well. And this foam adhesive that I'm using is foam adhesive that actually is in strips. You buy it that way. I will link to that in the description box below as well. And so here you can just see that I'm taking the backer off of it. Take the paper backer off of it so that you can wind it so that it will actually bend. And I'm just bending it around the curve of that circle. I'll trim off the excess. And I just wanted to pop this up on my card front just so that it was, just so that it's a little more dimensional inside of that frame on the front of my card. So now I'm going to start to use my little Scandinavian Christmas die cut pieces, including the little chain that's holding the little ornament. I've die cut that from some gold cardstock, some gold metallic cardstock. I'm going to just put a tiny little bit of foam adhesive on the back of this little gold chain so that it's popped up in the same amount of dimension as the green circle frame that's on my card front there. So I'm just going to fuss with these tiny little pieces of foam. They are ever so tiny, so it's kind of a little bit finicky, but I'm just going to get that on there. Then I'm just going to take my scissors and trim off the excess gold cardstock there for the chain. And so that it just looks like that little ornament is hanging. I love that look. I think it's really, really super sweet. Like I said, this Scandinavian Christmas set is mega, mega versatile. There's so many things you could do with this set. Now, like I said earlier, I'm not going to be using all of those die cut pieces that I stamped out. I'm just going to use a couple on the little circle. And I'm also going to stamp out the little red bow with my Gina K red velvet ink. I'm going to stamp the little bow out several times just to make sure that I get the ink nice and solid. And then I'll use the coordinating die from the Scandinavian Christmas die set to die cut this little bow out, and it will be the perfect little embellishment for the bottom of my little wreath that I'm creating. This is a very simplistic little wreath, but I think it's just so adorable, really clean and simple and beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere these pieces now to my little wreath. I'm going to use 2 of the gold branches that I heat embossed and die cut earlier. And so I'll just put one on each side of the bottom of the circle. And then I'll just add that little red bow in the center at the bottom with some foam adhesive. So just see me grabbing a little bit of foam adhesive and adding that to the bow right away here. And I'll just add that, like I said, to that bottom area. And I think I'm going to use my tweezers just to help me out here a little bit to get this placed in the right spot. And now I'm going to use the Make It Merry gems. And these are just beautiful. So many gorgeous gem stickers in different sizes on this sheet. And I'm going to use one of the tiny little red ones. I'm also going to be using the sentiment from the Scandinavian Christmas. I'm going to stamp it out with the brand new gold metallic ink from Honeybee. This is a beautiful pigment ink. It stamps out so nicely. It's a little bit easier even than embossing. So if you don't want to go to the work of embossing your sentiment and you want it in gold, it's really nice to have the gold ink. So now I'm just going to take that. I've die cut it out with a coordinating die from Scandinavian Christmas, and that's going to finish my card. Thanks so much, friends, for watching today. I love making shaker cards. I think they're so fun and they're great for any different type of card. And I did link up to all of the different products that I used in my video today in the description box. Take care, friends, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.